So let's get started. Welcome everybody to the Norfolk Community Council meeting for the month of August 2020. We're going to proceed with item number 1, which is roll call, but we are also going to do the swearing in for 2 new council members. That'll be Joanny Gillespie and Brooks Esser. So Mitzi, if you could please do roll call. We'll appreciate that.
Chair Everardo Rodriguez,
Present.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado,
Present.
Councilmember Beatriz Cerrillo, Councilmember Linda Lopez,
Present.
Councilmember Blair Whitney,
Here, present.
Councilmember Jennifer Reese,
Present.
Councilmember Brooks Esser,
Present.
Councilmember Janine Gillespie.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we said, we're going to have a brief swearing in of Joanny Gillespie. And please correct us, Joanny, about the pronunciation of your names. Same as for Brooks Esser. If there's any correction to make, now is the time. And I want to welcome you both. Joanny has been a long-time resident of Norfolk. She's retired, a psychologist, and retired from teaching at community colleges for over 20 years. And Brooks Esser is a longer-time resident, has been here in Norfolk for about 35 years or so. And he is he has lots of experience, and I believe he's in the business. He has a business background. Currently, still works for Hewlett Packard, and so you're both very welcome. And Mr. Tim Fox, County Counsel for the San Mateo County, will do the swearing in.
Okay, good evening. I will do this one at a time so that we don't have people trying to talk over each other. The oath that you are about to take is ceremonial because you have each taken and subscribed the oath as required by California law upon assuming office, but it is part of the tradition of the council to take the oath in a public meeting. As you're about to experience and have already experienced, the phrasing of this oath is extremely awkward, which sometimes makes it difficult to do a repeat after me because the phrases don't break very easily. Either they're too long or too short. There's none that's exactly right, but we have a unique opportunity on Zoom to actually have the text of the oath in front of us so that I'll share my screen and it will hopefully be less awkward as a result. So I'm going to turn on, okay, Mitzi, can you turn off screen sharing so I can share my screen?
There you go.
Terrific. Okay, can you see the oath on your screen?
Yes, I can.
Great. We'll start with Brooks. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brooks Esser, do solemnly swear
I, Brooks Esser, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all
enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Okay, Ms. Gillespie, do you want to do the same thing?
Sure.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joni Gillespie, do solemnly swear
I, Joni Gillespie, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, team, and welcome both Johnny and Brooks. We will go on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is essentially just an invitation for public comment. So anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda tonight. If you wish to do so, there are some steps that you would need to do, which were added to the full agenda. Mitzi, is there any public comment?
Through the chair, I see no hands raised. I will now turn it over to, give me a quick second. Actually, there is a public comment.
Okay.
So I see Shauna Stevenson. I will now unmute you. You have 2 minutes to speak. Give me a quick second just to prompt the timer. Okay, Ms. Stevenson, you're allowed to start speaking.
Hello, everyone. I am Shani Stevenson, and I am running for the Sequoia Union High School District's school board, and they are now doing area candidate runs. And so there's a new seat called Area E that covers East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, portions of Fair Oaks, North Fair Oaks, as well as portions of Redwood City. And so myself and there's another candidate running for Area E. And I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that I am running. And if you'd like to learn more about me, love to connect with anyone. My name is Shawneece, SHAWNEECE. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. Good luck.
Through the chair, I don't see any other hands raised. I will now turn it over to Victor Hernandez to see if he has anybody on the call.
There is none right now at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitzi. Item number 3, we will have a report from the California Highway Patrol.
Through the chair, I believe Art is on here. Let me see.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, thank you.
Can you see me? I'm not sure.
We can only see your name. There you go. Now we see you. it appears that your microphone is muted. There you go. I think
That's better.
Yeah, now we got you.
Okay. Great. So thank you for having me. It's been a while since we were able to see each other. It's great that at least we can do it this way. We've been a little bit busy with the fires. We've been deployed over to the coast, and we do have some updates. I'm just gonna pull them up real quick. We did a pedestrian crosswalk detail back in July, which was very successful. We ended up with approximately, I believe it was 30 citations, and there were several verbal warnings, and there were some vehicles that were towed for suspended drivers. We haven't really had any major incidents on Fair Oaks, such as fatal incidents. The other thing is we have a new commander coming in. Let me pull it up real quick. Sorry about this. I just got back from his name is Jason Cavett. He's going to be starting on September 1st. Currently, we have a Lieutenant Jerry Serrato, who's the acting commander at the city office. Captain Jim Allen retired earlier this year, and after 27 years with the department. So,
Wow.
yeah. So today we had another retirement. One of our officers retired today too. So we're doing a lot of moving in the department. So, do you guys have any questions for CHP?
What was Jason's last name, please?
Oh, Cavett. Let me pull it up for you.
Okay.
Get the spelling, make sure I get the spelling correct.
Okay.
C-A, V as in Victor, E-T-T.
Okay. Thank you.
Is going to be our commander as of September 1st.
Okay.
And due to the fire situation, we've been placed on tactical alert, and we've been working together with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Department doing some closures all throughout San Mateo County. We opened some areas today, but we're in Pescadero for starting today. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I did have one question. That's I know that now under staying home orders, the roads, the highways particularly tend to be more open, not as much traffic, perhaps from people staying at home, and speeds have seemed to have increased. Have you had increased numbers of accidents or reports of speeding, that kind of thing?
Not the number of accidents. We've had more citations, especially when citations for speeds over 100 miles an hour. There was something that we posted on our Facebook page back in, I believe it was in March or April. I think it was April, that due to the fact that there weren't that many vehicles on the roads, people were using it as a speedway. So our officers focused more on people that were driving such high rate of speeds, and therefore reducing the amount of the accidents or crashes, as we call them.
Great, thank you. And how often do you guys plan the events like the one you just had to check on vehicles, respecting the pedestrians, etc.?
So normally we have grants that come from the Office of Traffic Safety that allow us to have officers that are working on their days off, that they can come in and work these details. We do once a year. However, if we get complaints from the community saying, hey, there's a problem in this area, then we forward that to our, one of our sergeants who's in charge of all the traffic complaints, and then we'll create something. Might not be something related to the grants, but we might get some officers that are working on that day, and especially we'll use motor officers who are easier to kind of move around, and then we'll saturate that area with enforcement. And sometimes the same people that call us because there is a problem, those are the ones that sometimes we go and we stop them and like, oh, well, no, you can't stop me. I'm the one that called them. Like, well, then you should know there is a problem. So, but yeah, so it does happen. But we basically let them know. It's like, yeah, thank you for letting us know about the problem. However, when we do show up over there, we're pretty much citing everybody. So.
Right. Yeah, and there seems to be some confusion, I guess, from some people in terms of the pedestrian walkways. So are drivers supposed to wait until the pedestrian reaches the opposite side of the sidewalk? I just want to confirm. I know that, myself, I know that, but I'm not sure if I am even correct.
So there is the spirit of the law and there is the letter of the law. The letter of the law basically says that you are supposed to wait until the pedestrian is on the crosswalk, right? However, the spirit of the law allows the officer to make a decision saying, okay, is it safe for that vehicle to go over once the pedestrian has crossed, has gone past that half the crosswalk. If the officer feels that the pedestrian has, let's say that it's a mom with kids and the kids are jumping around, and if a vehicle starts moving while the mother with the kids are still in the crosswalk, then they may actually end up citing them. But if it's let's say somebody who just a regular adult that is able to walk safely across the crosswalk, once they get past half the crosswalk, the vehicle starts moving, the officer does not feel that there's going to be a safety issue at that point. So yes, they could cite them. However, we're going to use common sense when it comes to citing those motorists.
I see.
And when it comes to crosswalks where there is a center divide that is made out of concrete, such as on El Camino Real, then once that person has reached that half point of the crosswalk, then vehicles are allowed to continue moving.
Thank you. And just one last question, and this has come up in social media and Nextdoor, brought up by several neighbors, and is in regards of excessive noise that some vehicles have. Is there any ordinance against that? There
is a citation that, or there's a vehicle code that we can use to send them to a state referee when the officer feels that the vehicle has excessive noise. There's no way for us to accurately say, oh, well, you have just passed that. There's really no way for us to, but if the officer feels that the vehicle is super loud, then at that point, item send them to a state referee, and the referee will decide whether or they'll do a test of the vehicle and see if that vehicle is within the standards.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from council members?
Yeah, through the chair. Art, what's the decibel limit for a streetcar these days?
I don't know it offhand, but I can find out and email Mitzi if you like.
Just curious. Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question, Ever.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Sure. I had my hand raised, but you missed it.
Yeah.
So, Art, are you warning pedestrians who cross phone? Do you guys do any of that kind of? I see that a lot, and so what I tend to do is, like, I feel like I need to protect them. They're not even looking; they're on the phone, and if they give me a look, or if they don't feel like, I don't know. My question is, do you warn them at all?
Pedestrians. So when you were asking a question, the phone kind of cut off. So you were asking if we warn pedestrians when they're to be safe when they're crossing the crosswalk.
Yeah.
So whenever when we do presentations, or when we used to do presentations, now we're moving on towards more Zoom presentations. We talk about all the safety aspects of using the crosswalk. When we talk about cell phones for driving, we also tell them that when they are crossing the street, they should be paying attention to other vehicles because somebody else could be distracted as well. So if they're not paying attention, they don't have any airbags. They're going to get hit. And then even though they are on the crosswalk and they have the right of way, that is not really going to matter at the point that they've been hit and they're probably going to be laying down on the ground. So just
Okay.
because they're right away, they need to be paying attention on the street.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any public comment on these, Mitzi?
The chair, there's no public, so let me just double check with Victor.
Thanks, Mitzi. I have none.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your time and your report, Officer Montiel.
Great. It was nice seeing you again.
Thank you.
Likewise, we appreciate you. Thanks. We will go on to item number 4 on the agenda, and that's Census 2020 final push from the Office of Community Affairs.
Hi, that's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa, and I'm from the Office of Community Affairs. I see many familiar faces on the call, so hi to everyone, and hi to everyone I haven't met yet. Mitzi, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes.
It is, right? Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me go ahead and find my presentation. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the census. I hope you have all heard about it, but we're in our final push now. So there's been a lot of news lately about the census, but the deadline has been moved up. Originally, it was October 31st, and now it's September 30th. So we have less time, so it's super important for us to make sure that everyone participates in the county. But I do want to start off with some good news. That San Mateo County is #1 in self-response rate in the state of California. And I checked today and we're at 76.8%, which is huge, which is about over 10% over the California average, which is really, really great news. That means a lot of our community partners and everybody who's been working on the census has been working really, really hard. But I wanted to speak to you guys tonight to let you know that there's still a lot of work for us to do. In a very short amount of time. Again, September 30th, it's kind of unbelievable that we're already at the end of August and September is in a few days. It feels kind of strange that summer's come and gone, but the end of September is the last day for everyone to respond to the census. So that doesn't give us a lot of time. That's a little over 30 days. So even though we're #1 in the state, here is a list of the lowest 20 census tracts in San Mateo County. And as you can see, I kind of put little stars next to North Fair Oaks. So North Fair Oaks has 2 of the lowest census tracts in San Mateo County. And if you see here, you can kind of, you can see the number of households. So it's roughly it is 16, around 1,600, 1,300 households per each tract. So that means we really, really have to try hard to get all of those people to respond in 30 some days. And that's why I'm coming in to speak with you, so you can help encourage and motivate and get people to respond to the census. So here's a map of Redwood City, North Fair Oaks. So you can see here the lowest response rate tract. So if you look at, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but #7 has the lowest response rate of 60.5%, and that's right here. So it's this area, and here's El Camino Real. So this is the area. It's also helpful to look at the colors, if you can see those. So the darker colors are the areas that have responded with the most responses. And the kind of going into beige, lighter purple, dark brown are the areas that still need to respond more. So luckily, I don't see any beige or dark brown on this map, which is good, but I do still see a lot of those light purple colors, and those are the areas with the lowest self-response rates. So it's really helpful for us to have this information because, a lot of the response, you're able to take the census online this year. We're able to get that rapid response, that tracked information pretty quickly. So this is a map. These are the lowest response rate areas in North Fair Oaks. And then you can see here, this is kind of starting from the lowest going to the highest. So that area, track number 7 and track number 11, those are the lowest ones right here.
Melissa, can I just,
Yes.
This is Emma. I just want to bring it for North Fair Oaks Council, that track number 11 and 13. So for North Fair Oaks, there's 3 census tracks. And they'll be right there in that little triangle, 11, 13, and then the darker purple. These are the 3
outline.
Of the 3 census tracts in North Fair Oaks, 2 are in the lowest census tracts. And so that one, number 11, is going to be by Sienna Youth Center, just that whole section back there, the Selby area. And then on number 13 is by Multicultural Institute, that back area. If that's just to kind of bring some reference, Barron, Hurlingame area, Douglas, that whole back area, and 9th Avenue that backs up against Bay Road. So those are the lowest census tracts for North Fair Oaks. Sorry, Melissa.
No, it's okay. Thanks. I was bleeding into Redwood City. I'm sorry. Thank you, Emma. So yeah, these 3 that are in North Fair Oaks, and you can see this line that delineates the North Fair Oaks area right there. So kind of some updates of what we've been doing in our office. Because we have that information of the lowest 20 response rate areas in the county, we were able to do a bilingual postcard that went out to all those areas. You can see kind of an example of it on the top left. We're also doing bilingual banner ads, and these are digital banner ads. So when you go on the internet, Facebook, places like that, you see those targeted ads in language to your location. And if you click on those ads, it'll take you to the site to take the 2020 census. We're also doing bus ads, as well as, having ads in different papers. And this is a picture of the North Fair Oaks car caravan that Multicultural Institute organized. And it was really successful, and it was a lot of fun. And I think it was at this point in the game, we really need to have that boots on the ground interaction. But of course, it's really difficult. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so we still really want to make sure that we're abiding by all safety protocols, wearing a mask and wearing gloves and being careful. But I think this was a really great effort and really encouraged people in the community to make some noise and also find out about the census in their neighborhoods. And the North Fair Oaks Caravan drove through the lowest self-response areas in North Fair Oaks. And I think this was in collaboration also with Caravan. And I just want to let you know that enumerators have started going out. Enumerators are census takers, the people that do go door to door, and they are out in the community right now. So we really want to encourage people to self-respond before an enumerator comes to their door. However, some enumerators are kind of doing verifications of places that even have taken the census. So we want to remind people that enumerators are here to help, and they are sworn in to take an oath of confidentiality. By Title 13, your information is confidential, but we encourage people that if you still don't feel comfortable, you can close the door and go online and take the census. And also the Census Bureau is doing another mailing of census forms, and they're doing a 7th mailing of these. So I think we have the enumerators out in the field, but at the same time, you still have time to self-respond before September 30th. But this is how you identify a census taker. So if you see one in your community, I believe the Census Bureau was hiring people from within the community itself. So people in North Fair Oaks should be people, enumerators in North Fair Oaks should be people who also live in North Fair Oaks and are sent to that community to help people respond to the census. But I also want to talk about a big canvassing effort that we're doing. So September 8th through 11th, we will be going out in the field with some community partners and going door to door and helping people, just giving them information and pamphlets on the census. So it'll be census on one side, COVID on the other side. but we really want to use these trusted messengers because not everybody wants to open the door to maybe a census taker, but if they see people from their local community-based organization that they trust more, this could be an opportunity for them to take the census if they haven't already. But if you do see a census taker and you are maybe concerned or aren't really sure or have questions, this is the number and information on the Los Angeles Regional Census Center that you can call and just double check and make sure the person that came to your door is a census taker. But they are out in the field right now, and they work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I wanted to come on and speak to everyone because we need your help. So for each person that's not counted in San Mateo County, that's $1,000 per person a year. So for 10 years, that's $10,000 a person. So if there are 760,000 people in San Mateo County, and if 10% of the people are not counted, you would lose $76 million a year for the next 10 years. That's a lot of money of funding and resources that come to our communities. So we really, really need people to respond. In addition to that, our political representation in Congress and also reapportionment, redistricting on the local level. So it's incredibly important for representation, for resources for the next 10 years. And, unfortunately, we got hit with a pandemic, with wildfires. We have a lot going on right now. And I know this isn't top of mind for a lot of people, but emergency services depend on census data. Transportation, fire services, school lunch programs, affordable housing, all of that comes from the census. So we really need to encourage our community. So what I'm asking here for you to do, like a call to action, is really share information with your friends and your neighbors. You might be surprised of your neighbor has never heard of the census or hasn't taken it or has just thrown it away in the trash. So if you can reach out virtually, make a phone call 6 feet away from them and just ask if they've taken it, I think that goes a long way. You can share information on social media if you have social media or use it. If you have a Nextdoor account, you can post information, you can post a link on where to go and take the census. I think it would mean a lot, especially coming from people within the community, people who people trusted messengers. And we really encourage everyone to reach out and talk to their social network, talk to their colleagues about the census. I think if we all even reach one person or two people that haven't taken it, that's going to go a long way, especially in North Fair Oaks. Does anybody have any questions for me on the census?
Melissa, can I just add one more thing? Sorry, this is Emma.
Sure.
If I could add one more thing, I think as we are quickly approaching, as we said, 34, 33 days left. And this is the number of days left to make a difference in our community for the next 10 years. So the call of action is we have distributed thousands of flyers, food banks, canvassing, door to door, and we've tried multiple attempts. But as you can see, the numbers in North Fair Oaks are still at 60%. That's nearly 15% or 16% delta in those census tracts, delta from the county average. And that is still less than the percentage of completion in 2010. So this is really a call for an urgent call for help. And if you could, each one of you, as I've told and I've done, is we could each be responsible for our neighbors, for our block, and just increase that participation rate. There's too much at stake. And this is the one, if I can say anything and walk away, this is more than ever. Census is more important today than ever. There's too much at risk. We talk about so many times, why are the schools closing? Why is the clinic getting cut? Why are we losing a clinic? Census data makes and helps the decision making for the next 10 years. So I urge you, if we don't want one more school closed or one more clinic or one more service that our community deserves, that North Fair Oaks residents deserve, then we need your help along with every resident that's listening tonight. We need everybody. Todos contamos. We need to get together and stand united and get all our neighbors and residents to take count and be counted, because everybody's voice is essential and everybody should be heard regardless of citizenship status.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, and thank you, Melissa, also for the last push. Very informative as well. Yeah, Linda, go ahead with your comment.
Yes. Emma, what's been, or Melissa, what's been the outreach, or how are you helping to meet that challenge with service providers? I'm talking immediate service, the ones that are like distributing the food, the diapers. I mean, the ones that are actually right out there. I mean, is there an overlap, or how have you layered the?
A good question, very good question, and Melissa can answer as well. But I'll start for a little bit. Is as you mentioned, the food distribution. We have been working with Second Harvest for months now since the pandemic, and so 15,000 food distributions are taken out, and everybody receives a flyer. Not only does everybody receive information, we have not only San Mateo County, but the United Way Bay Area, as well as Silicon Valley Foundation, has funded all these organizations collectively. We have the most funding going into the North Fair Oaks area and East Palo Alto, as well as Redwood City. Most of the funding, and it is really our communities, whether it's Nuestra Casa, El Concilio, Luna, the Caravan, Multicultural Institute, the Public Library. We have really saturated our community and really activated our community. And you as members probably have seen a number of our postcards. And I would hope our postcards, our door hangers, our mails, and the census mailing. And so we have really, and Melissa, please fill in the other blanks.
No, and I think I saw, stop share. Someone on the call who actually made a census influencer video for us.
Yes.
Juan Carlos, Mr. Prado.
As well as ever.
Oh yes, as well as ever. So I think we've reached out to several people in the community to make these census influencer videos for us that we can share on social media. Or we're also working with, Multicultural Institute has been doing text banking and phone banking in the area as well. And we've worked with Siena Youth Center. Siena Youth Center hosted like a census night, I think a few months back. And we're working with Sister Christina as well. So I think working with our, trusted messengers and the community-based partners is essential to get everyone counted. So we can't do it without them and without you guys.
And we have known, and what we know is the most effective is door-to-door and canvassing. But when we started this, we had an early projections of a 58% response rate. We never anticipated, and that was before, it was going online, before the rhetoric, before the online, before the citizenship question, before the pandemic, and certainly before the fires. So we have now exceeded, and we've been leading the state, but by far, as I told you, North Fair Oaks is not only 16% the county average delta, but we also are below what our 2010 response rate was. So there's an urgent cry for help and for need for North Fair Oaks residents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blair, Whitney has a question. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, I saw your banner on the Fifth Avenue overpass, and I've been thinking about this. People have been moving in and out. Is it where you slept on a certain day in May or April when this all started that determines where you're supposed to answer the census? Because it's a weird time. People are, I don't know. People have already started moving to relatives' houses and going to Indiana or to Central Valley. And is it okay for them to respond as of whatever date? Just a logistics question.
So it's based on where you lived anytime after April 1st. If you have not responded, you can respond by today, by phone, by mail, or online. So if we forgot something, or if we might have thought, did I do it? Submit it. It's better to be overcounted than undercounted. So right now it really is, if you have 2-3 families living together, each family can submit. If you don't have your ID number because you lost it, you can still submit and they will find your address. It's, again, many people are, it's best to be overcounted and the Bureau will have to validate that. But right now, there is, I will say, with everything that's happened, we were initially supposed to schedule to end on October 31st. And approximately 2-3 weeks ago, we were notified by the U.S. Census Bureau out of the current federal administration that the entire census was moved up a month early. All Census Bureau operations are been put to a halt. They have told us that they were not going to, enumerators just started on August 11th. They told us that they were not going to go back and validate, and they're validating. There are many things that they had from initially said they were not going to do, and they're doing. So the only thing that we can rely on is our own responses. That's the one thing that we can do and we can rely on. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith in the Bureau right now. We have heard some very negative feedback that's happening from our enumerators, and we're trying to disseminate and working with the field office manager to share those concerns. But really, our only response that we can is self-response, and that's what we have control over.
Yeah, indeed. And I think, the lack of trust in the federal government has a lot to do with it. I was surprised, just anecdotally, last week I spoke with a friend of mine who seems to be on top of, her civic duties. And I asked her if she had already done her census 2020, and she said no, because she was a little hesitant about this government, etc. And I told her, you can't do that. I mean, somehow you have to trust the system and trust that, that democracy works. So yeah, we need to continue encouraging people, but it is discouraging to a lot of folks. But Brooks, Esther had a question. Go ahead, Brooks.
I had a quick question from Melissa. If there's something you could send us, Melissa, because a lot of us, spend time in the community and that sort of thing. If there's a handout, particularly one that identifies the different ways that people can respond to the census. So if we do go door to door, we have a leave behind that instructs people, here's the phone number you can call, or mail it in, or do it online, something like that. If you could send that to us, that would be terrific. Something I would definitely.
Well, absolutely. I can send that to Mitzi, and then she can send it over to you. So
terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
You could also put it on each one of your backgrounds. On each one of your backgrounds, as you guys are all doing Zoom, put census on your background.
Good idea. Yeah, good suggestion, Emma. Will do. Yeah, and I was going to comment. It was 2 weeks ago. I participated in the food distribution at the Fair Oaks Community Center, and Office of Community Affairs sent me through the Multicultural Institute. I believe it was over 500 flyers that we were able to distribute during that event. So yeah, let's continue promoting that. I did have a question, Melissa. I was wondering how many enumerators are working in North Fair Oaks?
I don't actually have that number. Do you, Emma, or is that confidential?
We actually know that 2,000 people, I would say, graduated out of Cañada College, CSM, and Skyline to become enumerators, but they are seeing a large percentage of people that are have already left their position or their post. So we're seeing a large turnover rate as well. So again, that will contribute to the lack of an inaccuracy of a complete count as well.
Yeah, thank you. And another question was, has the TV and radio Spanish-speaking stations, have those been targeted for ads, etc.?
Yes, well, I know the U.S. Census Bureau and the state, they did all the big media buys for radio and television, and we're really focusing on that micro-targeted approach in North Fair Oaks. So we are actually doing another full-page ad in El Reportero and doing digital ads there as well, and looking into La Opinión, and really focusing on that micro-targeted approach to different communities, because those larger TV, radio ads, a lot of those have been purchased already by the Federal Bureau, but also the state of California.
As well as the elections. And so we also are competing against the presidential elections. And in addition to that, we've also worked with the school district, where they also push information out through robocalling. As you know, when I get a call, I don't know as many of you, if you have children, when I get a call from my son's school, I know exactly, and I don't pick up any call, but I know what number's coming from my school. So we work with the school district, so robocalling goes out. And as Melissa said, we work with really hyper-local ethnic media. You've seen some billboards, as well as in our banners. We put banners throughout the community, and we really look to trusted messengers and our voices of our community, which those ads get pushed out through Hulu, through Bravo, through Telemundo, and any other browser. So as you're going through your browsers, that we could actually do a hyper-local and really take it down to that zip code, language, and et cetera. And Melissa's the one that's overseeing those services as well. But I want to go ahead, Melissa.
So instead of just turning on your TV when you're on Hulu, you'll see an ad specifically about San Mateo County. So I think these hyper-local targeted ads are more effective, and really people will pay attention if it's an ad talking about San Mateo County and really reaching the residents there. So that's what we've really been focusing on, those local ads.
Thank you. And Juan Carlos has a question.
Yes, for Melissa. I've seen the enumerators in the community. I'm working from home, teaching from home these days. And I'm assuming the enumerators are bilingual?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just because I do see some hesitance for my neighbors here, since I live in the most populated, densely populated part of North Fair Oaks, where there's nearby large apartment complexes and so forth, and everything that everyone has expressed here, I see it every day. I mean, people are hesitant, they're worried, they're scared, and so I'm glad I'm seeing enumerators out there, but it's just, the information needs to come, firsthand, knocking on their doors, talking to people face to face. The banners and the flyers, they're cute, they're nice. Okay, that's great. But, we've come I feel like this is the crunch time. You know what I mean? Like this is the fourth quarter. Like, we got, the every day counts. So, I just wanted to make sure that the enumerators are out in the community, but bilingual. So.
Yeah, they are. And this is, thank you for bringing that up, Juan Carlos. This is the Hail Mary. Let's bring it down. This is the Hail Mary we're throwing in. We're seeing who's going to catch this Hail Mary. And really, I hope you have gotten our canvassing efforts over the months and over the years. Over the months and weeks that we have been putting stuff on every, buddy's mailbox, door hangers, flyers. And we really have been doing our best, trying to maintain social distancing as well under this pandemic. So we also had to, we couldn't go out initially, and many of our community partners couldn't go out because of the pandemic. And as soon as we've seen there was some, we were able to go out in a safe manner, we did do that. But this has definitely put a halt in our outreach. So we had to turn to some cute banners and stuff as well. We had to seek other alternative ways.
They're appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you both. I wonder if there's any public comment. I see Linda's hand raised, but I think maybe, Linda, do you have another question, or you just forgot to?
Before I'll take it down.
Okay.
Thank Emma and Melissa. Thank you very much for the update and the push.
Yeah, Brooks, did you have another question, or you also forgot to lower your hand?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Right. All right. So, do we have any public comment on this, Mitzi?
Let's see. For all those attending at the meeting over Zoom, right now we'll use the raise hand feature if you have a public comment. Okay, so no public comment on this end. I'll turn it over to Victor.
Thanks, Mitzi. No callers over here either.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa and Emma. We appreciate your efforts on this.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, we have a recommendation for a home improvement exception on an off-street parking space. This is going to be a conversion of the first floor storage / laundry space into a dwelling unit within a duplex. And it seems like that grants a permission to obtain an additional parking space. The place is located at 197 Nottingham Avenue. And we will have a presentation by planner Brian Albini.
Hi, good evening, members of the council, county staff, and members of the public. I'm going to take this opportunity to just share my screen so that we can see the presentation here. Can everyone see that? Okay, thank you. Again, as mentioned by the chair, this is a consideration of off-street parking in connection with the home improvement exception, where 35 square feet of an existing structure is encroaching into the 10-foot street side setback of required in this zone. So I'll move forward to the, excuse me. So again, this is a photograph of the existing structure. You can see the first story that's currently vacant. And so it's the proposal to convert that first floor into a 1-bedroom apartment, where a second unit is above. A second apartment with 2 bedrooms is at the top floor, and an existing ADU is adjacent. Currently, there are 4 uncovered parking spaces. 3 covered parking spaces are required for a multifamily structure with this amount of bedrooms. And their request, because of the constraints of the site, is to seek relief for the covered parking requirement. For some community context, you can see the Southern Pacific Rail line in the rear of the image. This is at the corner of Nottingham and Westmoreland. And you can see that main structure here with the icon, and behind the tree is the second unit. I've identified here on this diagram the 9x19 required parking spaces and how they can be accommodated on the site. You can see the portion of the building in the lower half of the image. Highlighted in red is that portion of the building that has encroached into that required 10-foot side yard setback. Again, this is an existing construction that predated this rezone change, and they are merely trying to legalize this nonconformity through the HIE process. Again, this is the elevation view. This is all existing construction. And finally, this project is categorically exempt from CEQA for Class 1 modification of an existing structure. And what I'm seeking from the board today is that they provide a recommendation to the community development director that the council concludes that this required finding for the off-street parking exception and the home improvement exception can be made, and the continuation of this use is consistent with the R3S5 zoning district. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Yes, thanks very much for your presentation. Are there any questions from council members? I see Juan Carlos, go ahead.
Yes, Brian. So just to be clear, so the exception that they're seeking now is just so that there's conformity with the existing encroachment?
Correct. So any development proposal will seek compliance through either correction of that nonconformity or through either a use permit or HIE or variance process that we have through planning. And so in order to legalize this portion, in order to create this new apartment on the first floor, we had to reconcile that nonconformity where the portion of the building is encroaching on that street side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to expand further, there are no new construction. This is just to legalize those two floors that are encroaching.
And Brooks also has a question. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my question, Brian, is that has there been any feedback or comment from any of the neighbors of the surrounding properties?
No, the notification went out last week. I has of yet received any comments at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is, if there are any other questions from council members, please ask those questions, as this item requires council action. So if you have any further doubts or comments, this is the time to make those.
No questions.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this, Mitzi?
There's no written public comment, Chair, but let me check. For any member of the public who would like to speak now, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so there's no public comment on this end. Victor, can you check if you have public comment?
Thanks, Mitzi. There's none.
Thank you.
Thank you both. At this point, I can entertain a motion from any of the council members.
I'll move that we approve the recommendation for the home improvement exception and off-street parking exception for 197 Nottingham.
Thank you, Brooks. Do I get a second for the motion?
I second.
Oh.
All right, two seconds. That's good. That's even better than one. All right. So Mitzi, could you take vote, please, on that?
Of course. Chair Everardo Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado.
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Cerrillo. Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Blair Whitney.
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Reese.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks Esser.
Yes.
Councilmember Joni Gillespie. The motion carries.
Great. Thank you very much. Motion
Thank you, Council.
carries.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. And we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. That is going to be a presentation on the San Mateo County Recovery Plan. We're going to have a presentation by Deputy County Manager Peggy Jensen.
Good evening, council members. Thank you very much, Chair Rodriguez. Before I start, I have a question for Emma Gonzalez. And I know that there was a thought about presenting some information on the comeback campaign. Is that something you'd like to do before I start my presentation, just to provide some context to this, or maybe that's later on the agenda?
I could talk a little bit more about the comeback campaign during the communications. I added that towards the end of your presentation.
Okay, so you want to bring up those slides?
If you want to just kick it off, you want to kick this part off? I don't have a.
Okay, I'll go. The reason I mention that is that what you see on our slide here, the heart, is actually the logo for the comeback campaign. And it's something that Emma will be talking about, that Michelle Duran, our county PIO, put together. But what I'm here to talk to you about this evening is to provide you an update on our recovery initiative, the San Mateo County Recovery Initiative. Our tagline is A Better Future for All. You all may recall, I recall providing you an update on our strategic plan. Back in April, we contracted with a firm called IEM and brought together a fairly limited number of local officials to identify some recommendations around what we should do 30, 60, 90 days out from the pandemic. A few months into this, we realized as that strategic plan was being printed that this was going to be a longer term situation than we hoped or we had initially anticipated, which is why we pivoted to have a broader, more inclusive, and a broader recovery initiative. What you can see on the slide is the mission statement for that initiative. It's a collaboration among local county government agencies, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, private partners, residents, to promote an inclusive recovery and really focus on the whole community and how we can build through this recovery process more equitable, healthy, and connected San Mateo County. Next slide, please. So this slide presents the organization of the Recovery Initiative. What you can see is that the overall group is called our Recovery Coordination Council. They are the ultimate decision makers. This is not a County of San Mateo specific initiative, although it is county staff that are providing support to this project. And we also are contracting with a consultant, but it is rather a county-wide initiative. And the 14 members of the Recovery Coordination Council include all the types of representatives that I just spoke about, from the business community to school districts to local elected officials, jobs training, nonprofit organization. Supervisor Slocum, as chair of the Board of Supervisors, is a member of the Recovery Coordination Council. Below that in the below that in the orange and the green boxes, in terms of our structure, we have two advisory groups. We have a public information outreach group, which is made up of public information officers from around the county, from cities, from different organizations, different groups. Emma Gonzalez sits on that group, along with our county PIO, Michelle Duran. The green box is also an advisory group, and they're our equity recovery group. The focus of this project is significantly on equity. It is something that was strongly encouraged by Supervisor Slocum. He mentioned it in his speech when he became president last winter, that it is very much the focus of the recovery initiative, and I'll provide you a little more detail on that in a moment. And then beneath the advisory groups, you see our 5 committees: public health, economic recovery, vulnerable populations, community infrastructure, and education and childcare. Councilmember Lopez and Councilmember Rodriguez have both participated. Councilmember Rodriguez is both on the equity recovery group and also attends the infrastructure group. And Councilmember Lopez, if I remember correctly, has participated in our economic recovery committee.
That's correct.
Slide, thank you. So I mentioned that equity was an important component. It's a foundational principle of this entire initiative, along with public health, along with collaboration, and also fiscal responsibility. that equity is a guiding principle. And the very first thing that the Recovery Initiative team did, that our Equity Recovery Group put forward and the Recovery Council approved, was an equity guiding statement to the project. That equity guiding statement lays out the fact that equity is a priority, why it is a priority, but to really make that operational, to really incorporate it into all the work that's being done, all the recommendations and concepts that are being put forward. The Equity Recovery Council also our Equity Recovery Group also identified 5 questions that they expect and that we expect every committee and every review group to ask about every recommendation coming forward. Those questions really get to the heart of whether or not this recommendation is really focused on equity, whether it's focused on helping the people most in need and it's providing assistance that they really need. You can see these questions start with who sits at the decision-making table, talk about what data is being used, how is the targeting or the how is this project being rolled out, how is it supported by data. We ask about burdens and benefits, who would be burdened, who would benefit. How would we be held accountable in terms of the operators of the program? What are the outcomes, and are they benefiting the people that the program is intended to benefit? And finally, after all these questions are asked, are there equity issues that are raised? And then the question goes back to the group proposing a recommendation. How do they address the questions? How do they answer them successfully? Next slide, please. So I just wanted to share with you some of the common equity issues that have come up across the review of a couple programs that we've done and across all of our advisory committees. One of the key factors, the key equity consideration, is how will people know about the program? And all of the recommendations through the Recovery Initiative are recommending that every time any form of communication is done, that it be linguistically and culturally appropriate to the community that is trying to be reached. In addition, a complementary recommendation is that we need to work with trusted local messengers to convey that information. You heard a lot this evening about the Census outreach program. Emma and her team have presented to the public information equity group, and they agreed that the approach that Emma and her team have developed is exactly the approach that we should be using going forward in terms of communication around recovery. Another question that's come up around equity and recovery is who benefits, where the program's being targeted. And for all of our programs, we're recommending using mapping and data to identify the communities that are most in need, communities that may have had needs prior to the pandemic and whose needs may be exacerbated by the current situation. And we were recommending prioritization of assistance to those communities. And finally, a common theme is who has access. One of the things that has become clear from the work that we've been doing is that the digital divide is increasing the inequities in our community. We need to make sure that whenever we have assistance programs, that applications are available both online but also in paper, and that we also provide navigators, ambassadors, people who can assist folks in filling out applications, because many people have never applied for any type of assistance before, and they are in significant need right now. Next slide. So what have we learned through this process? And let me back up and just share a couple points about the process. Our committees, as council members Lopez and Rodriguez can talk about, have included a variety of steps. They each identified specific focus areas, and they also then did a lot of research in the sense that they had panels of people who were being impacted by the pandemic, parents, childcare providers, small business owners, a variety of different people, to learn about what the situation really is, what the situation is like in the community. We also had a panel that included local property owners and also local renters. So what we learned from all of that, and also from input from our significant number of committee members, is there are lots of questions about the COVID health and safety guidelines. Things change, and people would like to know, get more specific direction around what can and can't open, what they can and what they need to do to be healthy and safe, both at home and in their businesses. I mentioned that lower income residents have been most affected by the pandemic. We've certainly seen this in both the data that we have looked at for this project and also the people that we've spoken to. Food and shelter insecurity are serious concerns. People fear job loss, and many people, in fact, have lost their jobs. We also know from conversations with our health department that COVID rates are higher in our low income communities because of the overcrowding in the housing. Another area that I mentioned is lack of technology. We know that the digital divide is more problematic now since we're all relying on Zoom meetings and doing a lot of communication via our computers. We learned that almost all small businesses, including childcare providers, are struggling right now. Primarily, it's a challenge to make ends meet their bottom line under the new state health and safety requirements. It's also exacerbated by the fact that consumers and parents are also concerned about safety. They may not be willing to put their child back into childcare or go out shopping in the store. We heard about how shelter in place is very challenging for young children, for students and families who are trying to make home both a work environment, a schoolroom, and also a place where they all live together. And what all this has told us is that our recovery, if we're going to be successful, is going to require collaboration among all of us. Next slide, please. So right now, our committees have put together a series of over 100 recommendations that are being shared with a variety of stakeholders. You can see on the right-hand side of this slide, or left-hand side of this slide, some of the groups that we are speaking with. And all their comments will be incorporated into a final draft, which will be presented to our Recovery Coordinating Council on September 18th. Next slide. So I mentioned that you saw that we have 5 committees, and I mentioned that they each identify a focus area, that there are 2 focus areas that they thought were the highest priorities to work on. For public health, it's promoting community compliance with health directives and slowing the spread, particularly across communities of color and among service and essential workers. Vulnerable populations, supporting Vulnerable Populations Committee, focused on meeting basic needs, providing food and shelter, and also mental health and wellness. Our Education and Child Care Committee looked at child care, both for children 0 to 5, who would be in a daycare, more like a daycare or nursery school type environment, and then out of school care. And by out of school care, what we mean are children who would normally be in school, who are learning at home now, who may need more additional guidance than what they could receive in a home to really be successful in distance learning. Our Economic Recovery Committee focused on support for businesses, but with an emphasis on small businesses and especially minority-owned businesses. And they also put together recommendations for preparing employees for post-COVID jobs. And then finally, community infrastructure, which is internet and connectivity, and also public and active transportation. Next slide. So I mentioned that we had 104 recommendations, and those recommendations are ordered around goals and then specific objectives. There's 1 or 2 goals per each focus area and 2 or 3 objectives, and then 5 or 6 in most cases recommendations. I don't want to share all of this with you tonight. I know we have limited time. But I want to show you some of the highlights from that work, and I'm happy to provide to you our complete document with recommendations from all the committees so that you can look that over and then respond with any comments or suggestions that you all might have to me. So in terms of meeting basic needs, providing food and shelter security, our goal is to provide basic and essential needs to the county's most vulnerable populations. And we propose to do that by focusing on 4 objectives. The first 2 are listed here. First is to provide financial and other assistance to ensure that vulnerable residents remain housed. Those recommendations include things around continuing the rental assistance programs that we have, targeting that assistance to the most vulnerable and most communities most in need. Also including a program that we're currently developing to assist low-income small property owners, to assist them also. The second objective is, I kind of touched on that already, but is to provide support to those mom and pop property owners. The board approved $2 million at their last meeting for that program. They also added $2 million to the rental assistance program. And that assistance program for mom and pop property owners is currently being developed and probably will be rolling out later in September. Next slide. So the next two objectives under providing basic needs are ensure sufficient food and essential supplies are provided to those in need. As Emma mentioned, our census folks have worked closely with Second Harvest to distribute information around the census. Second Harvest has increased their grocery pickup sites to over 41 in San Mateo County, a significant increase from what was prior to the pandemic. And they also are distributing, I think, almost twice as much food as they did prior to the pandemic now. One of the things we've asked Second Harvest is to track those food trends, see if they're not able to provide or meet all their needs, because we want to make sure we have a sense of is there an unmet need out there and what would be required to meet that. The fourth and final objective under meeting basic needs is leveraging state and federal resources. I think the important point about this is that we know that the San Mateo County can't solve this problem alone. We're going to need assistance from the state and federal government, and we want to advocate to make sure, exactly as Emma and her team were talking about, advocating through the census to make sure we get our fair share. So that's the plan in terms of that objective, advocating and making sure that the county gets what we deserve in terms of the federal and state program. So moving on to the next slide, I'd like to highlight the recommendations around internet and connectivity. And our goal here is technology and connectivity for all, with objectives of being free Wi-Fi access countywide and increasing not only access to Wi-Fi, but also to the equipment and the technology and the software, the equipment and the knowledge, technical knowledge and the software that students, small businesses, job seekers, and the folks that are isolated would need to really access this technology and make it useful to them. Next slide. Next slide, please. So I'd also like to, the last two sections I'd like to highlight, the last area I'd like to highlight is out of school care. We talked about providing safe distancing and out of school care. And the hope is to provide, the objective is to provide out of school support for providers. One of the things that we've learned is that there are many students who would really benefit from what we would call a learning hub, where children come together in a supervised environment. And that's one of the things that, one of the recommendations coming out of this section. And I think that's the last, there might have been one more slide. If you could see one more slide, there we go. So this is school and out of school. We also want to support parents and children with the virtual learning. So what can we do to do that? Recommendations include providing guidance to parents, linguistically and culturally appropriate technical assistance to families for use of computers and equipment. And also there was a recommendation around organizing a volunteer effort to provide free culturally and linguistically appropriate virtual tutoring, art, music classes, and other enrichment activities for low and underserved students. And again, the final recommendation has to do with leveraging state and federal programs to make sure that we're taking advantage of whatever is out there. Next slide. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot of information. We will have a complete document available, and we'd be happy to share that if that's of interest to the council with all of you. And I would be happy to receive any comments that you might have. At this point, I don't know whether Councilmember Rodriguez or Councilmember Lopez would like to add anything, but that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Peggy. If council members have any questions, please go ahead and either raise your hand or just go for it. I do have one question to get the conversation started, and that is in regards to implementation. Peggy, are some of these actions or measures being implemented as we go, or is there a timeline planned for implementation?
There's a lot of work going on, and one of the things that we're documenting is the work that's going on and how that fits with the recommendation. What we're going to be doing over the next week or so is putting together the implementation plan for all of this, and that's something that will be shared with our committees and then with the Recovery Coordination Council. So that is the next step. The first step was to develop the recommendations, meet with the committees, make sure the recommendations reflected the input, the comments we received from the committee. And then once that's set, and we're getting close to having that done. So timeline and implementation plan is coming next.
Thank you. And Linda has her hand raised. Go ahead, Linda.
Yes, thank you, Peggy. I think either I missed it or there wasn't a lot of information. I was trying to go through your slides around the mental health and the stress. I am joining in with a lot of organizations during the week, and the mental health has seems to increase. The issues around mental health and stress seems to have increased. I missed it though on your, I think it was part of your focus area too, but I didn't see any outcomes.
So yes, Councilmember Lopez, mental health was a focus. It's the second focus area for our vulnerable populations group. In the interest of time, I didn't share those recommendations, but I can highlight them.
Okay.
And they are included in the report. The key focus was on making sure that people were aware of the mental health resources that are available, making sure that trying to overcome the stigma about it, reaching out for mental health resources, and sharing that information through all of our trusted partners.
And one follow-up question. Are you aware of any work being done by our Department of Mental Health as far as getting more into the community? I'm not sure if they're doing any more outreach, or is it still just a matter of people being referred to their resources? That's my question. Thank you.
I will refer that back to our behavioral health and recovery team. I know that everyone, including all of our community-based partners and providers, have had to go to a distance, a socially distanced or a virtual type of counseling.
Right.
So that's created some challenges for them, but I know they have a variety of education and outreach programs that they are implementing. What I can do is have behavioral health folks contact them and have them follow up with your committee. If this is something that's interested, to the council, if this is something of interest to others, I'm sure they'd be happy to talk about the work that they're currently doing.
Through the chair, what I'm hearing from people is about the stress, not just with clients, but service providers. So I'm hoping that they're also covered. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would say that for the rest of the council members, this is a comprehensive plan that the County of San Mateo is launching. So it is important to get familiarized with it, even if you're not participating actively right now. It would be important to be familiarized with it for when the implementation part happens, and it may affect you in some way. I just shared the PDF. I couldn't find it. I found it from the city of Colma, but it is the same essentially for the entire county. So anybody who's interested can just go to the link and access the PDF. Are there any other questions from council members? I don't see any hands raised. Is there any public comment on this?
There's no written public comment, but So for anybody who's joining the Zoom call, if you want to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so there's no public comment on this end. Victor, is there a public comment?
Thank you, Mitzi. There's none.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks again, Peggy, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 7. It'll be a presentation on the Immigrant Relief Fund by Sophie Mintier.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sophia Mintier, and I work in the county manager's office and have been working on the Immigrant Relief Fund for the past couple of months. So I will provide a quick overview on how the program works, and then an update on the progress of the fund so far. Next slide, please. The Board of Supervisors earlier in the spring expressed interest in providing support to undocumented residents of the county who we know are unable to qualify for federal unemployment benefits and for the stimulus benefits. And so we explored a variety of options for distributing funds to residents. At the same time, the Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County was developing a new fund for exactly that purpose. And so the supervisors opted to support this fund called the San Mateo County Immigrant Relief Fund. It's been seeded with philanthropic contributions by John Sobrato and by other local foundations. And it's administered by a group called Mission Asset Fund, which is based in San Francisco. So as of today, $9.4 million has been contributed to the Immigrant Relief Fund for our county. That includes a $2 million contribution from the County Board of Supervisors. And the organizers of this are continually fundraising in the hopes of being able to serve more residents. Assistance is based on need and is prioritized based on a variety of factors. And the grants are provided at the level of $1,000 per family unit. Next slide, please. So there is a multi-step process to applying for the fund. Residents who are in need of help first submit a pre-application through the Mission Asset Fund website to determine their eligibility for the program. This includes information like zip code, the number of dependents, verification that they cannot receive federal stimulus benefits, their work status, and their current income. This process happens very quickly, with Mission Asset Fund reviewing the pre-applications generally within a day of their submittal. And then those applicants determined by Mission Asset Fund to be eligible are invited to submit a full application through Mission Asset Fund's website. And as part of the full application, applicants upload checking account information or indicate if they prefer to receive payment in a different manner, and ID. Then Mission Asset Fund goes through a process of prioritizing and selecting residents for funding based on their demonstrated level of need. And this is really up to the discretion of Mission Asset Fund and includes factors like the loss of income, the number of dependents, illness or disability, and other special hardships that residents may be experiencing. Selected applicants then receive the funds through their bank account or a check within days. Next slide, please. And before I get on to the summary of the progress of the fund, I wanted to share this information on the website to use to begin a pre-application. I can also include this in the chat. The applications are still open, so people who are interested and need help can still apply and begin the process with the pre-application. And through partnerships with a number of core service agencies and other community partners throughout the county who are working with Legal Aid Society and working with Mission Asset Fund to spread the word on this program. Residents can get help if they need it. If they need help accessing the application or walking through the process, they can reach out to a variety of community organizations for assistance. Emma, could you share the PDF at this point?
Mitzi, do you have the PDF? Can you open that up?
And if not, I can share my screen if that's easier.
Okay, yeah, you can share your screen.
Sure, okay. Okay, so this is a dashboard that's provided every week by Mission Asset Fund on the progress of the funds. So I'll go through some of the key aspects of this. So to date, there have been 28,741 pre-applications that have been submitted through the website. So clearly there is a lot of interest and a lot of need demonstrated. There have been 14,157 invitations to pre-applicants to submit a full application that Mission Asset Fund has sent out. And this is actually more indicative of Mission Asset Fund just trying to control the demand. As the executive director updated us earlier this week, pretty much all of the pre-applicants are eligible, and it's really just a way of them sort of controlling the intake that Mission Asset Fund is doing, so that they can review a manageable number at a time. 9,589 grant applications have been started, and a total of 8,550 grants have been approved and distributed to residents thus far. That's as of August 24th. In terms of the top 10 zip codes to which the grants have been distributed, North Fair Oaks and Redwood City is number 1, followed by East Palo Alto, San Mateo, Colma, Redwood City, San Mateo, Daly City, San Bruno, and West Menlo Park. The grants have been distributed to a range of household sizes, from households of 1 person to much larger households of 5 people or more. And then the progress meter on the right side of the screen shows that it's at 87%. This refers to 87% of the $9.4 million that's been distributed thus far. Mission Asset Fund has shared with us that they are anticipating another $1 million or so that's been committed that they would receive. So if that money comes in the door, then they would be able to provide approximately 1,850 additional grants with that $10.4 million pool. So they're certainly still able to provide grants. And again, they are continually fundraising in the hopes of generating more money so that they can provide additional grants. On the bottom right side, the chart that shows current average current monthly income, you can see that a large share of the recipients are currently receiving $1,000 or less a month. Mission Asset Fund has really chosen to prioritize applicants that have almost no money coming in right now. And so the distribution of the grants reflects that. And in addition to the data that Mission Asset Fund is collecting and reporting out to us and to other funders, they're also collecting anecdotal information from applicants and from grantees on what the impacts have been to their lives. And in particular, they are hearing about a lot of applicants and grantees who have not necessarily lost their jobs, but had to stay home to isolate because they had had exposure to coronavirus. They've also heard a lot of stories of applicants who they themselves have been infected or whose family members have been infected and in many cases have died. And so they are, many of the applicants are now dealing with burial costs, funeral costs, and hospital bills on top of the other burdens that they're facing. So the data combined with the testimonials from applicants, I think really underscores the need for this kind of fund and the importance of providing this kind of support. That concludes my update. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for your presentation. I see if council members have questions, please go ahead and raise your hand. I think Linda has a question.
Sophie, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate that. My question is about the distribution of the actual fund. Are people going to receive, or are they getting hard copy checks, or is that through a gift card, or do they still have to have a bank account? What's going on with that?
Sure. Yeah, so the preferred option was for applicants to upload their checking account information and receive a direct deposit into their checking account. However, we know that that many community members may not have bank accounts, and we wanted to have additional options. And so I think through the partnerships with the community organizations that are doing the outreach, they were also providing support for applicants who didn't yet have a bank account but wanted to establish it. And in addition to that, Mission Asset Fund does have the ability to provide the payment as a check that would be mailed to their residents. And I think there is also an option to receive it as a prepaid gift card. But I think the majority of the recipients were receiving the funds through the direct deposit to their bank account.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie.
Sure.
I do have a question, Sophie, and that is, are there, to your knowledge, are there any active efforts doing fundraising for this purpose? By
Yes.
anyone, by any
Yes. So a lot of the fundraising efforts have been done by John Sobrato, who provided an initial $5 million contribution to this fund to get it going. And so I know that he has been behind a lot of the efforts to do outreach to San Mateo County Board of Supervisors and also to other philanthropists to try and get them to contribute. I know Mission Asset Fund is doing fundraising. So I think that will continue. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to receive more donations so that Mission Asset Fund can continue making grants. But clearly the need is much, much greater than the funding that's currently available. So it's hard to imagine that we would be able to meet all the needs demonstrated by the pre-applications and the interest in this fund.
Thank you. Yes, it is going to be a continued need for these, I believe, because also as rental moratoriums come to an end at some point, I think, there are going to be just, a limited number of extensions for rent moratoriums. So at some point, we're going to have a more sobering reality in that regard.
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
hope that the efforts, by all means, continue. Any other questions by council members about this program? If not, if there's any public comment, Mitzi?
Any of the members who, for any of those who are attending want to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. Okay, so no public comment on this end. Victor, can you let me know if there's public comment in your end?
Thanks, Mitzi. There's none.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And thanks again, Sophie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as a final item, item number 8, we will have, do we have a supervisor's report? I think I saw Maggie.
Hi, Ever.
I'm here.
Hello. Yeah, great.
Hi, everyone, council members. I don't have a supervisor report, but I did want to share that I participated in the food distribution along with Terry Chin, Second Harvest Food Bank, and I saw Ever there. We distributed some of the food in probably like the hottest day of the year. It was like 102 degrees. We were there from 2 to 6. But it was really nice to see some of the community members and to see everybody working really hard to get the community moving forward. So that was really nice. I just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Do we have any county managers report?
I didn't have anything specific to highlight for the council today, but I did just want to inquire whether or not Emma Gonzalez of our Office of Community Affairs had anything for the good of the order.
No, I was going to share just some of the communication that we were doing targeting our vulnerable communities in North Fair Oaks and under our comeback campaign. If you have a few minutes, I can share that with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Mitzi, can you open up that screen?
Yeah, give me a quick second.
And while you're doing that, Mitzi, I will
Oh, sorry.
next slide. Oh, right now. Yeah. So you've heard a lot about the, sorry, previous slide, Mitzi. You've heard a lot about how we are using really our best practices that we've done with the census, really targeting our COVID outreach and COVID communication into a very micro-targeted, culturally and linguistically appropriate. And we're using that through trusted messengers and through our hyper-local ethnic media channels. We're really targeting communities that are most at risk or higher at risk. We're looking at and working with public health data that we review every week. And then with an overlay of our census data, really to target the lower income communities as well as overcrowded populations when we do some of our outreach campaign. And then we are doing it in countywide, including North Fair Oaks. But I want to just highlight some of that work that's taking place. Next slide. Here's some of the bus shelter bus ads that you guys might be seeing in North Fair Oaks. And really we're trying to, as you guys know, the Latinos are the most hardest to hit in COVID positive cases. As of yesterday or day before, there were 38, nearly 50% of the positive COVID cases are of those Latinos. And so really trying to educate our Latinos and our community members to stay safe. And I know that social gatherings continue, but if we could wear our masks, it protects others, maintain the 6-foot social distancing. So here's just a couple of those ads that you're seeing in our community, whether they're in a bus shelter, and we're trying different approaches. Next slide. We're also using, as we said, some micro-targeted ads through Facebook or through your social media live stream. And we were able to really target it into Latin-speaking, English-speaking, 94063, and really able to micro-target. We can now do it into any zip code, any language, and bring it into community. So here's just a sample of those that we've also put into market, as you can see. And we've been doing, and we piloted this already in North Fair Oaks, and we've been doing that since July. And so we've been doing a very micro-targeted, and now through that success and through the census campaign, we're now pushing that through countywide. Next slide. And here's an example, and I'm sure you guys have all received this canvassing efforts. And here's one of our own canvassers, our own part of our community affairs. And this is actually, you guys have all met him, Jose Moreno, who is also our business liaison. And here were you could hear kind of some helpful hints, 5 things that you can do to stay safe with COVID. But you will see here, and here's our census tracts for North Fair Oaks, and we do this for every community in those low self-response and those hard to count, most at risk. we really target it and then focus in those particular areas when we do canvassing efforts. Next slide. We currently have a Wear Your Mask campaign, Mask Up SMC. And this is just, real life people from our community. These are North Fair Oaks residents are telling us why they wear a mask. And I wear my mask because of. And so we're really just trying to, bring true life testimonials of why people wear their masks. They wear for their family, they wear for their community, they wear for themselves, and to really help and get back to business, to open that business up again. Next slide. And again, as I said, here's our Mask Up campaign. So we encourage you, when you're wearing a mask, hashtag Mask Up SMC. Show your pride in how you wear your mask and your family and your friends. Next slide. We have, I hope each one of you have received this. We have an e-communications or an e-community newsletter all about COVID in English and Spanish. But we have also done this direct print mailer that goes to every North Fair Oaks resident in San Mateo County. So that's 5,200 households also receive this mailer. And it's both in English and Spanish. So if you're not getting it, please sign up for our our communication newsletter. And if you like, we can include you on that so you can have the electronic version. So you too can mail out the link and encourage other people to get this newsletter. And it's really great information about COVID resources. Next slide. You've heard a lot about our mask mobile. And you've heard that out of the direction of our county managers and our board of supervisors, it's really important, as we know, to stop the spread, to slow the spread, we have to wear a mask. So now we have our community crew out of the Office of Community Affairs. As we target our vulnerable communities, we go out and we distribute masks into those vulnerable communities. So you're getting a sneak peek of our van, of our mask mobile that will be coming to a community near you. And it's currently getting installed, but this is it. And it will really just going around, make it lively and encourage people. We're going to pull over and we have a calendar of where we'll be in different communities. We don't identify the location because we want to limit gatherings, control crowd, and we want to maintain the safety of our staff to have that 6 feet social distance. But I know earlier this week, they distributed over 160 masks in North Fair Oaks at the parking lot on Middlefield. And then about 2 weeks ago, they worked with philanthropy donated face coverings, and we provided collateral to Sister Christina, and over 1,500 face coverings were provided to Sister Christina St. Francis Center. So those are, large amounts. But as we talked earlier, Melissa talked earlier about our direct canvassing efforts that we're going to do with Census. So when we begin to do that and really saturate our community in North Fair Oaks with volunteers, and our volunteers are going to be led by Sister Christina and her team, they each will be provided masks to give out to community members as well. So we're really going to make sure all our communities are not only aware, we're going to provide collateral information as a mask. And in each one of those masks, Linda, we do provide a business card. And in there's not only access to our resource page, we also provide access and a phone number to where if somebody's having mental health, substance abuse, the access hotline, as well as to the hotline for Red Cross for grieving and counseling, and then also to 211. So we have that.
Very good. Thank you.
Next slide. And here's our community crew in action. And you'll see them and they just pull over, drive into a city, and they're actually here distributing masks. And you'll see, and we've been using the month of August to really learn our lessons. And then make and do some changes and adjustments. One of our biggest adjustments I will share with you is, our small business community or large businesses, they don't like us to put masks near us, give away masks near them because it takes away from business. So we've also had to kind of redeploy our team, but we're lessons learned. Some of them is working in going near a large apartment overcrowded, and we give out masks there. Working with our day laborers and different approaches, and that's what we've learned best. But we're happy to say that we are going into different communities and really trying to best educate our community the importance of wearing a mask. We're giving out hand sanitizers and collateral material. Next slide. Here's an example of our mask distribution for August. And so you'll see that we target different cities. We do not advertise a location, again, to minimize those things. We did experience at one location, one of our very first weeks, over 500 people showed up. I quickly, people phone treeing and saying where we were at. So we've learned that, and we don't stay at a location too long, but we really do try to get into all the communities. But we use public health data and overlaid with census data to determine those locations that we'll be focusing on. And we review that once a week with our health team. Next slide. And here's what September looks like. Again, here's a copy of our draft of what our van looks like so people could see. And follow us. If you're not, please follow us at the hashtag SMC _COM affairs. And you can see all the great work that our community action crew is doing at the direction and leadership of our county managers and Deputy County Manager Justin Nates. Next slide. We do very micro-targeted digital media, we have our Ever and Juan Carlos have both been a part of, and we welcome each one of you to provide us a video and share and be part of our influencers. You too are influencers in our community. And these are just organic videos. And so this particular video is Marita. And it went in English and in Spanish, and over 155 people in a very short time, number of impressions that were seeing that video. Next slide. Oh, and it was Peggy Jensen. But yeah, that is just a quick sneak peek. I just wanted to share some of the communication that's taking place through our vulnerable communities and really trying to target our COVID outreach. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Justin and Emma, for the great efforts. We'll look for the van, certainly. Are there any questions from council members?
No, thank you very much, Emma. No.
Great, thank you. And finally, are there any council members' reports from any council members? I can start by saying that, like I had mentioned, and Maggie also mentioned, that we both participated in the food distribution effort this is a monthly event that takes place, is organized by the Fair Oaks Community Center and Second Harvest. And the only reason why I bring this up is because in the previous times that I have participated, we have had food left over. There are several boxes. By the time we finish the day around 6 or 6:30, there's still several boxes of food that people just didn't pick up. And obviously, Second Harvest takes that food away. It doesn't go to waste. But my point is that this last time that we were there, it was extremely hot and there were so many people, it was just grueling. There were more people coming in this time around than the previous times. And I think it just shows, that there's probably more people with more need, because this time there was not a single box of food left. Everything went away, and that just shows essentially, that the need either might be increasing or something is happening. But I just wanted to comment that. And with that, if there isn't any other council members' reports, I will adjourn the meeting and thank everybody for their participation. So we will see you next time. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.